folks. Welcome to a special edition of Crimson Cast. It's Tuesday, October 14th. Galen Clavio, Scott Caulfield joining you here on what is probably the most unique show we've ever done.
Yes. Well, we're the wrong side. Normally, I'm on this side of the.
Right.
I need to move sides.
Now,
Yeah.
I think this will flip when we actually post it. It's fine. But no, we are not just coming to you from our normal StreamYard location here. We're not just coming to you from any old location in Bloomington. Where are we, Scott?
We are in the Curt Cignetti Room in the new POSH Hotel.
We are in the Curt Cignetti Room. Wood paneling, rich Corinthian leather all over the place. There's a bar you can see right there behind us. These folks hooked us up with some of these amazing old fashions.
Cheers to having the best coach in college football.
I mean, life is good when Curt Cignetti is coaching your football team. And we're very grateful to the folks at the POSH Hotel for hosting us here and looking forward to working with them, hopefully moving forward as we're trying to expand our footprint a little bit and do some more things out. If you saw our live show down at Home Field at Tracks a few weeks ago, that's the example of the kind of things we're doing.
And it's all happening here on Kirkwood because you got Home Field and Tracks on Kirkwood. So the POSH Hotel, if you haven't been to Bloomington in a while, it's right down here. It's right where the bank used to be. It's right across from the library, right here on Kirkwood. If you get here, we'll do some videos upstairs too. If you go onto socials, you'll see it. They have an unbelievable lounge. It just looks over the courthouse down there. But it's like one of the coolest hotels that just opened up in Bloomington, and it's the only hotel that has the Cignetti Room.
Yes,
a room for Cignetti. And like, what forward thinking to be like, we're going to attach to this guy.
Yes, when Curt Cignetti, his name is on something, it's going to be well planned out, meticulously crafted, high quality. That's exactly what we're looking at.
Although I'm nervous, he's going to walk in and be like, you guys need to better. Come on, podcast a little harder. Turn the volume up. Come on, you can do better.
Coach, I lost my focus during that second segment. I apologize. It won't happen again.
Just going to seek you to stand there and sit and just look at us just with a kind of a scowl. Man, you could have made better points.
100%. But it's homecoming week as well here in Bloomington, and Indiana's halfway through the regular season. Indiana is 6-0. Indiana is bowl eligible.
I was going to say, we ended the show we almost joked, we're bowl eligible. We almost forgot that's such an afterthought.
I know, it's wild. I mean, we used to dream about times like this, and now it's just it's a mile marker on the interstate that is Indiana football, and it's a special time. And so we wanted to do a little bit of an episode where we took stock of everything that's going on right now with IU football, take stock of what the season's been so far, how that matched up with our initial expectations, and then from there, take a look ahead to the next few weeks as there's some very important games coming up. There's a lot of things that Indiana has now in front of them that are possibilities, and so much of how we remember this season is going to depend on how Indiana handles those moments. And so, Scott, let's dive right in. I mean, when we started this season, we talked about Indiana having the opportunity through those first 6 games to really make some statements. And we had, obviously, with the first 3 games, Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State, we figured Indiana was going to do fine in those games. That Old Dominion game, much like we saw last year with that first game of the season for IU against FIU, there were some growing pains. There were some moments where clearly things hadn't gelled. A lot of people took the opportunity to be critical of IU, including people in my seating section. Shame on you people. But you got the sense in the second game against Kennesaw State that it was all systems go, that everything was going to be normal. But even with that, and even with as well as Indiana played in that Indiana State game, I think there were still some questions about how much of a leap, if any, did the team take over last year. Last year was a fever dream, as you talked about, and you always have it in the back of your head. Can Indiana make that? Can they stay static, first of all? Can they make a jump into the next echelon? Or is it a situation where maybe they move backwards a little bit? Because let's be honest, not everybody goes 11-1 in the regular season, and not everybody is able to make the college football playoff. Expecting that, that's when you're spoiled as a fan base. But they play that Illinois game in week 4, and suddenly it felt like not only did the floor rise, but we blew the ceiling out. And suddenly it felt like everything was possible in this season.
It's funny with the Illinois game, we almost did what we didn't want to do, which is we beat them so bad. It's like we're going to make them look bad. But I'm just pulling up, 2024, because I think you're right. 2024 was a fever dream. You look at that. But I think what I will speak for myself, a lot of people forget, myself included, is that was a slow burn. It's like you think back, it's like, oh man, we were awesome up until Ohio State. it's like they started well. They played well against FIU, but it was still a little dodgy. They kicked Western Illinois. They did lay the wood to UCLA.
Yeah.
But then you come back, Charlotte's an okay game, but that Maryland game was really a turning point because that was a game that was nip and tuck through. I mean, the score doesn't represent it, but that was a real nip and tuck game for most of the game. And even the Northwestern game that you were at,
right?
That game, they were getting big chunks of plays. I mean, they were within that game as well. Both of those games kind of have the same, 40 to 20-ish score, but those were both way closer games where, Indiana was still figuring out how to be the team that they were. And then, last season to this season, the Nebraska game was kind of like the Illinois game. And then it was, you were on a rocket ship off of that point. So this year it's like it happened even sooner.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were a little bit nervous after the Old Dominion game, but this is where you have to take a breath, look at things, because, Old Dominion is not Alabama, but Old Dominion is also not bad. Like, they're going to have a good season. That's a good team. They've done some things Penn State hasn't done. They've beaten some Power 4 teams. So, you kind of have to wait. Same thing with like teams that beat Clemson early in the year. It's like, oh, it's a great win. It's like, it's not. But, I look at this year similar to last year. It's like last year wasn't just immediately we were great. They were way better. And then it was a slow burn that built out. But, this year it seems to be happening even faster in real time.
Yeah.
Because now you're at a point where, I mean, looking into this year, I looked at that. I think a lot of people did as well. The Illinois, Iowa, Oregon games as like this 3-game stretch where it's like, in the best case scenario, could you go 2-1? But it was even like if you go 1-2, where there's still a path there for a really good season. I just don't think anybody had 3-0 on there as the possibility.
Not a lot of people did. And it's funny you mentioned that Northwestern game last year. I remember walking out of their temporary stadium along the lake, and you're euphoric because that was a tighter game, and then Indiana pulled away in the fourth quarter, and it's like, wow, we're bowl eligible, we're 6-0. This is everything that you would have wanted,
right?
And then it was, well, how big do you dream? It wasn't a situation where you went into Nebraska or went into Washington expecting to win, because it was now the stage has been elevated,
right?
So how does Indiana fare in a situation where the stage is elevated? And of course, they passed both of those with flying colors. This year, it was a similar kind of thing. Illinois, night game,
right,
prime time. It was a game that they actually dumped Notre Dame off of NBC so that they could show the Indiana game. And it was a walloping. I think you could make an argument that it is the most impressive single win in terms of domination over a team that was ranked. They were ranked in the top 10, should still be ranked. I actually think it's a travesty that Illinois' 2 losses are to number 1 and number 3, and they're not ranked. But that's something for a different podcast that we'll talk about. But the absolute domination that Indiana demonstrated against a team that most media thought was a top 10, top 15 team coming into the season.
Right.
And that became a game where IU announced, hey, we're back. Not only did we not go anywhere, but we are in position to do greater things, make a lot more noise. But it was those road tests that we really were focusing on, because Indiana, whatever your interpretation of the Ohio State and Notre Dame games were last year, Indiana did not perform to the standard that they set in the other 11 games that they played last season in those 2 games. And look, a lot of that really came down, in my opinion, to the moment being very big. Indiana, it was funny, I was listening to Aiden Fisher talk, I think it was post-game of this Oregon game, the idea that you come to Indiana to play in these big moment games. And it's like, that is not historically true. At least not you don't come to play and succeed in those
like,
games.
Aiden, you came to do that. A lot of people have come here and not done that.
But that mentality, hearing it from Aiden Fisher, who has become, this talismanic figure with the Indiana defense, it really highlighted the mentality shift that Cignetti was able to pull off. You knew that Cignetti was not happy with the way that they played the Ohio State game or the way they played the Notre Dame game, and had to sit around all summer, all winter, and listen to people talk about how, well, Indiana was a cute story, but Indiana didn't belong in those games against real teams, which, I mean, I still wonder what is Michigan. What Nebraska was notably ranked when Indiana played them. It was certainly a situation where people moved the goalposts. But regardless, it was a situation where you knew that if the season was going to be better than last year, or even about the same, they were going to have to learn how to play in games like that.
Right.
And Iowa provided such a fascinating canvas because it started so well, and then Indiana got dragged down into the mud, as Iowa is wont to do. And yet somehow Indiana found a way to win that game. And I remember thinking, I think we may have even talked about it in the post-game podcast, that felt like a game where Indiana escaped their own DNA as a program. And that's one of those where you're almost like doing a genome remapping of IU football, where it's like, that is not a game that we go in and lose. That is a game where you go in and you grit it out even when things aren't going well, which really set the table for this game against Oregon. Because
real quick with that genome thing, like not a great analogy, but I always think of the 04 Red Sox, where, I mean, they just had this, they were just a loser team when you and I were growing up. It's like they just would always fall apart at the wrong moments. And it's like they're down 3-0 to the Yankees, and then it's just like what Dave Roberts steals a base, and it's like, nope, we're just going to win. And then it's become this team that just goes on a roll and wins 3 World Series after that. You can switch these things real quick, and it felt like something did. I'm with you. Something did change at Iowa, and something changed at Oregon too. When you take those interceptions and you just come right back, the mistakes happen. I mean, that's what we talked about in the post game. It's like that was the difference in my mind between last year and this year. Is last year those Ohio State and Notre Dame games, we were not ready for those, but it was like there was a couple of plays that happened, and it just we couldn't get back from it. This is what I love about what happened is those same types of plays happened at Iowa and happened at Oregon, and Indiana just brushed it off.
That becomes another part of the genome remapping, is this idea that your team can sustain a body blow, even a self-inflicted one, and not collapse. And I forget, there were so many podcasts that I watched. It actually might have been, of all people, Kirk Herbstreit on his podcast talking, I think, with Joey Galloway, about how when Indiana throws the pick six in the Oregon game, it's like, well, this is when the avalanche starts. You go 3 and out on the next possession, and then the punt gets blocked. And now all of a sudden Oregon's in their red zone with a chance to take the lead, whereas 2 minutes later they were down 7. And that didn't happen. And we talked about it on the show on Sunday night. The poise and the confidence and just the incredible strategic approach that Indiana took to that next drive after the pick six was truly something I don't think I've ever seen out of an Indiana team in such a key moment. And that, to me, and the whole game really just gave you this feeling that this Indiana team is in control of itself and its surroundings in a way that maybe no other Indiana team has been historically.
Well, and just off that pick too, like and I've heard other people talk about this on, again, I'm like you, I'm just like devouring all the national media I can. But, it wasn't even that they came back off of something fluky where it's like a weird fumble that Oregon had. It's like, and it was on both sides of the ball. Like we throw the pick six and then we immediately come back with, as we talked about, one of the best drives of the year for this team. We score a touchdown and their defense immediately has 2 plays interception. It's like, it was both the offense and the defense that stepped up. It wasn't like we scored a fluky touchdown and then Oregon had a fumble or something and a weird handoff. It's like we took control of the game on both sides of the ball, which I don't remember we have to kind of have like pre-Cignetti, like almost PC, like I don't remember pre-Cignetti that ever happening where we've had moments where it's like,
just Scott, it's just BC
before Cignetti. Well, we got to market it differently. PC. Like,
I don't think people don't even use BC anymore. It's been like,
I know, but that's we got to talk to another sponsor about that. That's been used by a group for quite a while.
But like society.
Well, yes.
But no, the point is exactly what you said, that there's been such a personality transplant with IU football. And this is where, both of us, I think, picked Indiana to go 10-2.
11-1.
You picked 11-1. I picked 10-2.
I had the win against Penn State.
That's right, which looks like a better choice now on your part, which we'll get into. But I picked 10-2. He picked 11-1. But a lot of that was predicated on the idea that we felt that Indiana wasn't going to recede, that the combination of players that they had coming back, new guys stepping up, and obviously the addition of people like Fernando Mendoza, like Roman Hemby, alongside Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr. It's fascinating. As much as we got attached to the players last year, Curtis Rourke, Miles Price, Keyshawn Williams, CJ West, I mean, there was this whole array of players that you fell in love with because they were right in the middle of what had been up to that point the greatest season in IU football history. And now to watch all of these new players having come in and being great contributors, and then also seeing guys, not just Omar Cooper, but Isaiah Jones, who were on the team before Cignetti and his staff got here, start to emerge as top level talents. I mean, it's been talked about a lot on several shows. We talked about it, but the linebacking core that Indiana rolled out for that game between Aiden Fisher, Isaiah Jones, and Elijah Hardy, that was such a dominant group of players in that game. And then you look at what the defensive line has done. Mario Landino, Tyreek Tucker, Mikael Kamara has been getting so much pressure. He's drawn so much attention that he's opened up things for other people. I mean, it's fascinating watching this team, which going by the recruiting rankings shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
But, the idea that you're able to bring in older players, put them alongside younger players that you're developing, and it's really about finding the right stuff in people and then figuring out how to mold that into an attack that's able to respond to things like the pick six at Oregon or that interception towards the end of the game against Iowa. Like, these guys are so well drilled and they understand what their jobs are so well. That is so unusual in the history of IU football that it's impossible, if you've been watching IU football for a while, not to just bask in it and say, wow, I don't know how we got here. Rhett Lewis on Big Red Carpet, I think, called Cignetti a golden god, which, I mean, that's but it's fascinating watching a coach and his staff with such a great command of preparation and an understanding of what they have to do to get their players ready to play in games and to be able to reinforce things. What I find the most amazing thing, Scott, about all of these games is I don't know that you look back at that Oregon game. In fact, I do know. Sorry, let me back up. I do know this. You can look back at Oregon, if you're Indiana, and say, we did not play our best game. Fernando Mendoza did not go out and throw for 400 yards. This was not a game where everything went right for Indiana. In fact, up until those last two possessions, Oregon was leading the turnover battle. Oregon was leading they had put themselves in a position where they weren't having a great game either. But Indiana, despite not getting an amazing game out of their offense, still won that game handily by 2 scores. That is so promising for the future because Cignetti and his staff can go back to his players and say, you guys wanted Oregon and you didn't play your best game. You need to play your best game moving forward. Like, it's something you build off of and you point back to and say, yeah, we won, but we did 19 things wrong. We have to fix those 19 things. And this is a team that seems to respond to that.
2 things, and I think I brought this up at one of the podcasts we did in the first 3 kind of non-conference games, that I not knowing Cignetti, but being in his room. But
by the way, we are at the POSH Hotel in
Yes.
Kirkwood. If you're just joining us here in the Curt Cignetti Room, this is an actual room. It's amazing. We're looking forward to some events in here, hopefully relatively soon. This will be awesome.
I was saying that, I had a real sneaking suspicion that when Cignetti looked at this schedule, it wasn't like, I think a lot of us were like, let's get ready for that Illinois game. That's the moment. And I was like, I think there's a world Cignetti's like, I'm going to hold stuff back for the Oregon game. Like, that, to me, that's the moment. And you look at the way this team has played and the way they kind of did things. I think that's really the way he's looking at it, is like, Illinois is going to be a test against a good team. Iowa's going to be the road test. And both those things together are going to what get us ready for a game at Oregon, which we're going to go win. What I also love about Cignetti is he definitely, you can hear his answers. He's great with the media. Like, I don't think it matters to him, but it does matter to him. And what I mean by that is, like, I think he wants to do what he wants to do, but I think he heard all of the stuff from last year. I think he knows what that was, the wrap of, like, okay, you can't beat the good teams. And so you look at the schedule, it's like, all right, what's the first chance we get to show this? It's at Oregon. And so I guarantee he had that circled. And I love the fact that he kind of knew what the wrap was. And it's like, we're going to kick that rap in the ass. Like, we're just going to go beat Oregon at Oregon. And it's like, that's gone now. Yeah. And it's been unbelievable. And we talked about it on the like how it just legitimizes everything in the back end, which it shouldn't, but it does. Just everybody nationally looking at this and being like, man, Indiana's like for real. Like, it's like, well, last year, I listen to people like talk about, last year was cute and all that, but it's like, and they would all say, like, it was a 4-quarter victory. Like, it wasn't fluky. It wasn't like we had 20 points just like that or something that happened. Like, But nationally, everyone's like, yeah, like Indiana's probably should be 2 or 3. And it's just like now it's Indiana, Miami, and Ohio State, and then the rest of the field.
You've got to avoid the online haters, and there's a ton of online haters. There's always going to be. So you almost just have to ignore that entirely. But the voices that matter in college football, like you can't build Oregon up and Autzen Stadium up as an impenetrable fortress, which it has been. It's not like it's an inappropriate or inaccurate buildup. That is one of the, if not the toughest place to play for opposing teams over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. And everybody has fed into that, and everybody has talked about how hard it is to play there. You can't say all of that and then have an Indiana team that was lightly regarded still by a ton of people for all the reasons you just mentioned, march in there and win by 2 scores and not say, all right, we believe you. Yeah. We believe in you.
Because even I heard one person talk about, like, you can't even do like, all right, well, Oregon's win against Penn State. Penn State's not good. Like, if you start playing that game, you get to a point where, like, no one's good.
No one's good.
It's like, because Ohio State's win against Texas, they're not good. It's like you can kind of delegitimize everything. And then it just shows like whatever bias you have. But I will say nationally, everyone's kind of just like, yeah, man, like it's something special. It's something different happening there. And not to get off topic, but it's like also been cool hearing, Cignetti being named for the Penn State job, which makes sense. But a lot of people I'm hearing nationally,
rumored, not named.
Sorry, rumored. But a lot of people that I hear talking about it are saying like, I don't know why he goes. Like, like even 2 years ago, it would be like, that's an absolute no brainer. But even nationally, people who aren't plugged into Indiana look at it and like, I don't think that makes sense.
Right.
Like, Cignetti should stay.
Yeah. So we look forward to the next few games of the season. And you've got obviously coming up this week, Indiana hosting Michigan State. I think the line is 26.5 points, which I mentioned this on Twitter. I haven't done the research. I cannot conceive of a scenario where this is not the biggest pro-Indiana spread in the history of this series. Yeah. I mean, this is a series that has been dominated historically by Michigan State. I think that there's something like 50-17-2 in this series.
There's probably not a lot of plus 20 Indiana spreads in Big Ten history.
I was thinking that as well.
I mean, it's like not just Michigan State.
And it's, look, Michigan State has struggled. They lost at home to UCLA. They've really not, the Jonathan Smith experiment has not been working so far. Aiden Childs has struggled. Indiana, weirdly, that game was a game last year I was worried about. Road game, team that we normally don't play well against, especially in Spartan Stadium. And it was a tough first quarter. And then Indiana,
down 10-0.
And it was really, I mean, if you think about it, that game was the first game we'd seen them get punched in the mouth and then come back in a big way. I expect Indiana, this is always the challenge. You come off literally the biggest win in program history, the biggest single game victory in program history. How do you refocus your team? How do you get them to realize you got to go out and play at a standard now that you have set? And you cannot afford to get sucked in to the rat poison of everybody talking about how great you are.
And you're now being hunted like you've never been hunted before.
I will say, if you're a coach, one of the things you like to do is create distraction in some way, shape, or form, or have distraction created on your behalf so that your players are focusing just on the game. All of this Cignetti to Penn State gobbledygook that's happened has been great because that has taken the focus to some degree. Like, everybody talked about how great Oregon, the win at Oregon was, but now everybody's been talking about
James Franklin, the buyout, the hire.
It has taken some of the spotlight off. But this is a game Indiana obviously needs to win, and for style points, probably needs to win handily. They look well prepared and well equipped to do that. I'm fascinated to see what Taylor Lehman at Bite Size Bison comes up with in terms of the preview sheets and whatnot. And we'll have those later on in the week here on Crimson Cast. So stick around for that.
My only disagreement, I'm not sure style points matter at this point now for Indiana. I mean, if they're,
I mean more like you're going to have to beat them by the spread. I think that there's an expectation because right now you're dealing with you're an air we've never breathed before as a program, and it does matter for the committee. It matters for the computer rankings. If the computer rankings say we think that Indiana is 27 points better than Michigan State, if you don't go out and win by that margin, your numbers start to drop. So I do think that it's important because whether or not we want to acknowledge it, those are part of the metrics that the committee is using, and the committee is going to be the one that ranks the teams. And if Indiana wants a bye in the college football playoff, or they want to be in the top 8, so at the very least they're hosting a first-round game, I do think you need to concern yourself with that.
I would only push back on this, that I think if they go 12-0, I don't think it matters how they, based on what we've done thus far. I mean, if every game is like an overtime win from here on out, maybe that's something. But if you're winning by not the spread, but you're 12-0 in the Big Ten title game, I honestly think 12-0, you're getting a bye no matter what happens in the Big Ten title game, no matter how you get to 12-0. I personally think we're at that point now when you're in that upper echelon where it's like you're going to look at it and be like, all right, again, if you're winning by 3 every week, maybe it starts to catch up to you. But I think now just you got to stack wins. So we're splitting hairs, but
let's just win by 30.
It'd be nice.
You get UCLA the following week. I know some people have been a little concerned about that game. I'll say this. I think that Tim Skipper's doing an awesome job. He's gotten that team turned around. You get I guess in football we call it the dead coach bounce.
Well, I was thinking about this. Like, if Michigan State wanted to make it fun for us, like, fire John Smith now, because we could then play Michigan State, UCLA, Penn State, and possibly Wisconsin. We could have 4 of our last 6 games against teams without a coach that started the year.
It's not inconceivable that Mike Locksley could get fired at Maryland before then. I mean, they've lost a couple of games in a row, so that is funny.
And then could Purdue fire their coach 2 years in a row and just make it a clean sweep?
Barry Odom's doing a good job at Purdue. I think he'll be fine. But no, the UCLA game, the one thing I'll say to folks, if you're concerned about that game, remember, they beat a Penn State team that had clearly given up, or maybe given up is the wrong word, but there's clearly something toxic in the water there that had created some problems that UCLA was able to exploit. And then UCLA turns around, big win on the road at the same Michigan State team that Indiana is playing this week, who we just talked about not being particularly good. So I think Indiana will handle business there. They're going to have to be vigilant, but it's a good test for the defense. And then you've got Maryland on the road, tricky game. It's because, again, that we saw Maryland play very well the first month of the season, so they clearly can play football, and they've been close in the losses that they've suffered up to this point.
The Penn State one, I'm honestly like, I picked that as a win this year. That was my 11-1 pick. I'm oddly almost a little more nervous about that game now than I was before. And again, I have full faith that Cignetti's going to keep this team locked in. I don't see this as an issue where, you felt it a little bit under Tom Allen, where it's like we're already spiking the football when we're winning. The season's not over yet. I'm not concerned about that, but I think this is a trickier game because you're going to have a Penn State team almost like a wounded tiger. It's like, are they going to come? What's going to come out? It could just be a team that's dead on arrival and you just win. But it could be like what you saw with UCLA, a new coach, the dead cat bounce, and like maybe the team just comes together and like and Happy Valley is also still not a tough play, not an easy place to play.
You know who's never won in Happy Valley?
Indiana.
Right. It's never happened, which is why I was talking with somebody about this the other day. I have such a mental block as an IU football fan.
Yeah.
It's so hard for me to just get in my head, Indiana can win in Happy Valley. Like, it's just, I'm not going to take it for granted until it's happened. But
to go 12-0.
Well, no, you'd only be 10.
I know, but like on the path to 12-0.
It's funny. I was talking with I was talking with somebody earlier today, and we were talking about how they're maybe planning on going back to Indy for the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can plan for that. And if we're in that, I'll be there no matter what. But I cannot think we're going to be in the Big Ten championship game until it is signed in ink after the final regular season game. Like, I'm still at that point.
So you're also not like, we got to buy in the CFP.
None of that. None of that at all. But the Penn State thing is interesting because Penn State, it's not just that James Franklin got fired.
Right.
It's also that they lost Drew Aller, their starting quarterback, for the rest of the season. It's also that their defense, coached by Jim Knowles, who's the best defensive coordinator in the country, allegedly last year and the year before, that defense got gashed by UCLA, and they're going to play Iowa at Iowa, and then they have to play Ohio State.
Right.
And then they play Indiana. I mean, that is a team that could have their will completely broken by that point, but you can't take it for granted is kind of my point. And then you've got Wisconsin.
Because the last thing I'll say on that game is like they could lose at Iowa, they could lose to Ohio State, be on a 5-game losing streak. We are now at that point where we're a pelt where that could if their defense coordinator, if he wins that game against Indiana, that could propel him to get the job. Or I mean, it's like
they're not giving him the job.
But it could.
I understand your point.
It could save your season. It could at least
it gives you something to point back to and say this was not a complete disaster,
right?
Even though it is pretty much a complete disaster for Penn State right now,
right?
But then speaking of teams that have had their will broken, Wisconsin, who just lost at home by like 30 points to Iowa in a shutout, they come to Bloomington, and then you got to go on the road after a bye to Purdue, and that Purdue team's been feisty,
right?
And it's a rivalry game. We've seen better
weird
teams, weird stuff happen, as you see in the Iron Bowl, as you see in the Egg Bowl, as you see that. But
I mean, you talk about a win Purdue would never give up. Like they'd put up a banner.
They
for
would.
that.
But yeah, finally something to put a banner up for in West Lafayette. But no, that also is a game that Curt Cignetti, I feel some confidence, would be very, very hyper-focused on, and with 2 weeks to prepare.
Again, the same Cignetti who I think understood winning at Oregon would change the paradigm. I think he also, again, every coach knows they have to win, but it's like I think he fully understands if he loses Wisconsin or Purdue or UCLA or Michigan State, it's like everything is taken away now. Like you've lost all the goodwill you had at Oregon.
Well, maybe not all of it.
A good amount of it.
Yeah. I mean, but this is where, again, I'm taking it one game at a time.
And that's the way to do it.
And I think that's what Indiana will do as they move forward with all of this. And so we start with this game against Michigan State for homecoming, and we're going to have a ton of content for you between now and then. I'll go ahead and use this podcast to make the announcement. We'll be live I'll be live with unannounced guests, but there will be guests. Home field at Trax at 5 p.m. right down the street here on Kirkwood Avenue. We'll be doing a show right before the basketball game, the exhibition versus Marion, happening at 7:30. We'll be live from 5 to 6. So stop by Home Field at Trax, our presenting sponsor here on the Back Home Network. If you haven't been in the store yet, it's awesome. We did a live show there.
I'll tell you, last time you did a live show, we beat the hell out of Illinois.
We beat Illinois by 53 points. So we're hoping for some similar mojo coming out of that. So stop by Home Field at Trax if you're going to come down for the basketball game, or just if you're in Bloomington, come by, say hi. We love to hear from you. I might even have a crowd mic. We might even have a couple of.
Let's go.
We might have some crowd questions available there. So check that out. But we'll also later on this week have additional content. Crimson Cash going to come out on Thursday, and we'll have some additional preview content for Indiana as they take on the Michigan State Spartans.
By the way, the Indiana, just a real quick gambling thing, the Indiana over-under this year for wins was 8.5. And James and I in Crimson Cash were just like slamming that. Like that is so, and I hit it. It's a wild number. By the way, you also you should come on at some point because you had the under for the Indiana-Oregon game, which was a great call. So well done.
I mean, it was, it felt like the right thing to do.
But 8.5 for Indiana. Like, and again, so that, Vegas are the ones who, like, their numbers matter more to me than the AP polls because, like, they're trying to make money on it. And again, it shows there was some respect on Indiana, but not everybody saw this coming because, I mean, we're going to blow through 8.5.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. So we will be around all week, and we will be looking forward to talking to you all either in person or via the podcast. We, as always, appreciate you folks tuning in and chatting with us as we walk through this amazing season so far.
And I would say after every win, come to the POSH Hotel and get a old fashioned in the Cignetti Room. This is the way to do it.
This is delightful. Our thanks to the POSH Hotel for letting us hang out here in the Curt Cignetti Room and talk to you about Indiana football. We look forward to that as we move forward. Never daunted, Hoosiers 6-0, bowl eligible. They play Michigan State for homecoming and for the Old Brass Spittoon this Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Hope to see you out there. Catch you folks on the flip side. So long, everyone.